Hey guys, I'm recording this on a very gloomy Sunday afternoon, but I wanted to make a message today about enduring things and some would like to say tolerating things, but I would say just enduring things for the time being, especially if you know that, and especially if you live with the knowing that stuff won't always be the same forever. Things will not always last. Things will not always be this way. And we need to know the difference between staying stagnant and having to stay in a place for a certain season until we elevate and level up. The best example of this that I could give is having to share a room. Now, for my whole life, I've had to share a room, and though it's the master bedroom, and though it's huge, and we have double of everything in this bedroom, because if you don't know, I'm a twin, so my parents are very traditional, and they believe that twins need to be together no matter what. And so for majority of my life, I've shared a room. I can't tell you one time that I've had anything to myself, honestly. Not only being a twin, but also being the first daughter, there's always just been this push to share everything. And so I always felt independent, but I never had a sense of independency as it pertained to having my own things, right? And I was always taught that having my own things or having something without sharing it is selfish, and that everything you get, you need to share it, even if the person you're sharing it with did nothing to obtain it or nothing to earn it. And so I always grew up thinking that like everything had to be shared, and if you didn't share with people, you're selfish. If you didn't share with people, you don't care about anybody. But as I grew up, I realized that sometimes God will remove everybody from your life, not because they're a bad person or because you don't need anybody to survive, because the Bible does talk a lot about community and how we need to be united with one another to advance God's church. But sometimes God will remove people from your circle, remove people from your life in a particular season, so just so that he can bless you. I remember I made an episode a couple back, and I said that God removed this girl from my life that I was friends with, and I really loved our friendship, and I really loved finally feeling like I have a sense of friendship, because I haven't been friends with somebody for such a long time, especially a girl. And so it felt good to have somebody in my life, but I did see a lot of red flags about her. She was very dreary. She was very gloomy. She was always very negative. She was never really happy. And every time I felt bubbly or like happier, I just felt like myself around her. I felt like I had to bring myself down to her level of darkness to fit the aesthetic, right? And so God removed her from my life, and I was like, oh, is it just because she's negative and you don't want me to think negatively? But then God outlined to me that it's because he wants to bless me so much, and it's going to be a blessing that I won't be able to maintain. Like, it's going to be a blessing that overflows, like runs over, right? And it will have no other choice but to spill over to the people in my life. And he said he didn't want it to spill over to her. Now, that doesn't mean that God doesn't want to bless her, that God doesn't want good things to happen to her. He just doesn't want the blessing that he's preserved for me to go into her hands. God knows how much we labor for things, how obedient we are, how much sacrifice it takes to follow him. And some people are not worthy or deserving of the blessing and the gift that God has given you. And so sometimes for a temporary time, we have to endure a season where we feel like nothing's ever changing. Things are becoming the same. Things are staying mundane. People are staying mundane. But we have to understand that we only have to endure it for a little while, and then God will prosper us into our next level, where these problems we're facing right now, we're never going to even remember of these problems. And the biggest example that I could tell you is right now I'm trying to navigate being a young Christian and, being in a Christian family, yet living with people who claim to be Christians but don't walk that life at all. And it is so hard because I'm trying to heal and I'm trying to reason with these people, but these people are so stuck in their religious ways that they think that that's what's going to get them to heaven. They think that that's what having true communion with God looks like. And so everything's about having to go to church every Sunday, not using God's name in vain. But like, these are the same people who will post Bible verses and they don't live it out in real life. And so obviously there's a disconnect and there's a war coming in between us, because I walk that walk. I don't even have to post about it. I walk that walk, and it's not easy. But then I live with people who claim to walk that walk and are very destructive in their ways, are very wicked in their heart posture, right? And so I always complain to God, and I'm like, I'm sharing this room, I'm sharing this space, and I'm literally sharing it with somebody who refuses to change, who is rude, who is just wicked in so many ways, who claims to love God but doesn't show it in their everyday life. And I am having to be forced to accept it. I'm having to be forced to sit here and be like, I know this person claims God but does nothing of God, and I'm supposed to sit here and still live in peace with people, still turn the other cheek. And it gets very difficult, especially when that person claims to be in the faith. Like, if there was an atheist who was acting that way, I would expect that of them. But when it's somebody in the faith, there's more of an expectation to walk with God, especially if you're going to claim him. And it's not a judgment thing. It's just like, if you claim to walk with God, walk with him fully, you know? And so God told me, and he gave me a revelation. He said, you need to have peace about this. Every time you argue with one of them, every time one of them is unnecessarily rude to you, every time you feel like the black sheep of the family, which chosen ones are the black sheep of everything, the society, the family, the workplace. But he says, every time you feel like that, know that this is temporary. I'm going to be going to university. Like, I graduate high school in 4 months, and so God just keeps telling me, like, listen, after these 4 months, you're going to have your summer. Everybody's going to be in and out of the house. You're going to be packing. You're going to be doing so many things, investing in yourself, working. So get excited. Stop paying attention to what you can see right now, because faith is things that is hoped for but we can't see yet. And so just keep your hope and faith in that you're going to move to a new city. You're going to leave your hometown. You're going to leave everything you've ever known. And though that's scary, you ought to be excited about it, because you see how things are working over here. You see how life is over here. And though I can still bless you in this city, you know that this place is not for you. You know that if you stay in this place, you're going to continue to fall into temptation. You're going to continue to fall into people pleasing. You're going to continue to fall into feeling guilty every time you don't show up in a way that people want you to show up. But something that God is trying to teach me is that we have to choose pleasing God over pleasing people. And that gets really hard when it's family members, because family members have a special gift in making you feel guilty for doing what's best for yourself. And when people can no longer use you, and when people no longer have access to the version of you that used to just give everything away, they quite literally get offended at the fact that you're no longer usable, that you're no longer a rag they could just walk on and use and do whatever they want to, right? And so you will begin to face a lot of opposition. But God says that in that time of opposition, we need to stand firm and just get excited about our lives and just brush it off. Like, quite literally turn the other cheek. And I know it's easier said than done, but when I find myself about to get offended, or when I find myself about to get irritated, I just remind myself that this is not going to last forever. And I am literally one step away from my dream life, but it all depends on how I react to my present situation.